hasn't said bad about me personally, but I'm sure that'll be next. But I'm very disappointed in Elon. I've helped Elon a lot.
He didn't want a podium. He never asked for power. All he wanted was progress, a cleaner planet, a multi-planetary future, a world where innovation wasn't slowed by red tape or dragged down by outdated thinking. But Elon Musk wasn't just building rockets and electric cars, he was building a future, one bold risk at a time. So when Donald Trump returned to the political stage, Elon made a calculated choice, not because he believed in the man, but because he believed in disruption. If the system was broken, maybe breaking it a little more would finally force it to change. But what happens when the chaos you hoped would clear the path becomes the very thing standing in the way? On June 3rd, that question ignited a storm. Trump dropped a $5 trillion spending bill. Musk fired back, not with silence, not with caution, but with fury. He called it a disgusting abomination. He accused lawmakers of bankrupting America. He risked everything, contracts, partnerships, reputation, to say what no one else would. And that's when the real story began. Because this wasn't just a fight about numbers. It wasn't just billionaire versus president. It was a war over the future and who gets to define it. And as the battle lines drew tighter, the world was left wondering, why did the man who once helped Trump now stand so firmly against him? And what happens when the world's boldest builder declares war on its most dangerous spender? Let's begin. Elon Musk didn't set out to challenge political giants. He set out to build the future. With Tesla, he changed how we drive. With SpaceX, he redefined where we could go. But as his rockets soared, he noticed something unsettling down on Earth. The very systems meant to support progress were dragging it backward. What would he do about a government too bloated to keep up? At first, he thought disruption could be the cure. So when Donald Trump ran for president again in 2024, Musk held his nose and supported him. Not because they shared values, but because Musk hoped a bull in the china shop could finally clear the shelves of dysfunction. But what started as tactical alignment quickly soured when the chaos became policy. Where, Musk wondered, was the logic? That question exploded on June 3rd, 2025, when Trump unveiled a $5 trillion spending bill that Musk instantly called a disgusting abomination. It was packed with giveaways to lobbyists, bloated military budgets, and pork barrel deals for politicians who smiled for cameras and robbed the future behind closed doors. Musk took to X and posted, "Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong." But was this just a billionaire ranting online, or something far more disruptive? Musk didn't stop at outrage. He followed up with brutal numbers. The bill would balloon America's deficit to $2.5 trillion and destabilize the economy for a generation. And he wasn't alone. Economists echoed his warning. Markets tensed, investors panicked. It wasn't just a policy disagreement, it was an economic red flag being waved in real time. So what would happen when Musk crossed the one man who hates being contradicted? Trump fired back with classic flair, mocking Musk on stage, calling him ungrateful, and suggesting he was jealous of government contracts. But the more Trump ridiculed, the more credible Musk sounded. Especially when Senator Rand Paul, hardly a Musk ally, stepped in and slammed the bill too, calling it a betrayal of conservative values. Were old alliances beginning to fracture? The public noticed. So did the crypto markets. Musk posted a cryptic line, "When fiat fails, decentralization rises." And just like that, Doge surged. Bitcoin jumped. Investors started whispering, was Musk signaling a shift toward decentralized resistance against centralized waste? Could his fiscal crusade have deeper implications for the very foundations of modern money? Meanwhile, inside the bill, watchdogs found even more rot. Hidden tariffs, vague trade deals, and secretive defense kickbacks. Global leaders like the EU and China bristled, tensions rose, and companies with overseas supply chains began warning about coming delays and rising prices. Could one spending bill trigger a global economic chill? That's what began to happen. As the dollar showed signs of instability and borrowing costs climbed, developing nations started pulling away from US-backed bonds. Even longtime allies hedged their bets. What started as a domestic financial decision was now shaking the very perception of America's economic leadership. Could this lead to a new world order in finance? Musk seemed to think so. His posts got sharper. You don't build a future by stealing from it. He live-streamed budget breakdowns, shared interviews with economists, and explained every hidden flaw with surgical precision. What began as a social media thread had morphed into a digital classroom, and people were listening. But could this online uprising turn into political pressure? That pressure was already boiling. A movement called Future First surged across platforms, demanding transparency and long-term thinking from politicians. Teachers assigned Musk posts in classrooms. Business leaders shared his quotes at board meetings. But inside Washington, power doesn't fade quietly. What would happen when Trump's allies decided to strike back? They did. SpaceX contract reviews were mysteriously paused. Tesla tax incentives were under evaluation. Rumors flew of behind-the-scenes retaliation. But Musk didn't back down. He leaned in. More data, more posts, more live Q&As. He was betting that truth, when armed with clarity, would beat influence. But would that be enough against a vindictive administration? Others began breaking ranks. Former Trump advisors publicly sided with Musk. One said on national television, "Elon's right. This bill could bankrupt us." Momentum shifted. As fear of economic fallout grew, investors began seeking safety elsewhere. Emerging markets, hard assets, even crypto. Was the world quietly exiting America's financial shadow? The consequences arrived fast. Interest rates rose. Lending tightened. Inflation crept in. Small businesses pulled back. Federal aid to global partners slowed. And in the middle of it, Musk dropped a final post that went viral. Patriotism means protecting your grandchildren from your own mistakes. It hit hard, and it hit home. But what would history make of this moment? Because when the smoke cleared, the real story wasn't about a spending bill or a political fight. It was about values. Musk had once supported Trump to shake the system. But when Trump betrayed the principles of sustainability, fiscal responsibility, and generational thinking, Musk stood up and said no. Why? Because the future depends on people who are willing to lose something in the short term to protect everything in the long term. And now that question lingers in the air. Who will follow Elon Musk's lead? And who will keep pretending nothing needs to change? If you found this interesting, hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives like this, and drop a comment. Whose side are you on, Elon or Trump? Let's talk.